Hey everyone, my name is Chris and I'm the lead content creator for Winter Moon Games. I'm here today to give you 5 tips on how to take your content to the next level, whether that's technically or even just for a perspective of learning how to maybe articulate a little better about what you're trying to say. So, brief summary of who I am so you don't just think I'm some random bald guy telling you what to do. I'm actually a videographer and editor and have been doing this professionally for over 10 years. So these tips that I'm giving you today are actually hopefully going to help you enhance your videos technically, but it really does cover just some basic stuff, but not everybody knows, so you got to start somewhere. We're going to start today by talking about framing. Now, framing is one of the more important steps when making a video. Framing is going to be tricky and going to probably change for everyone depending on where you're filming. Not everybody's going to have access to a studio or a large shooting space. Regardless, proper framing is important and is still possible. Now, if you look at my frame, it goes the top around the edge and down the sides. This is the frame of the video. There's a concept called the rule of thirds. Now, I want you to picture for a second, this frame's actually split into thirds. Okay, so there's 2 lines going down the center of your screen that kind of divide this frame. Now, I'm centered in the frame, or at least somewhat mostly centered in the frame, and that's how I prefer to make my videos and a lot of other content creators out there as well. There's no rule that says you have to be centered in the frame of your shot. If you look at what I did in this shot, this is me standing, and off to the side I have some toys and some games, and it doesn't look as awkward as it could be if nothing was actually here. Now, the rule of thirds exists so that you can get a visual of how your frame should look. There's something I want to talk about called lead room. Now, lead room has a bunch of different names. Some people call it talk room or nose room. It's the space in which you or your subject that you're filming speaks into. So it only really is relevant if you have somebody else in the room with you that you're looking at. Lead room would happen where if I'm over here on this side of the frame and I'm looking over here at my guest, now this is the empty space that's over here is the talk room that I am talking into. It makes it easier and more pleasing to watch for the viewer instead of having me over here talking right at the edge of the frame almost to my guest. So the rule of thirds exists to help you position your subject or yourself into the center of the frame or in a somewhat balanced fashion. Something called headroom is arguably more important than lead room, especially if you're just doing content creation like this. Headroom, or sometimes called head space, is the amount of space between the top of your head and the top of the frame. And if you look here, mine is pretty good. So you don't want to have too much headroom or too little headroom where now I'm cut off. Basically, you want to try and find that sweet spot where there's a little bit of headroom, and as you do this more, you'll get to know what looks right and what's proper. So just as a too long didn't read version, make sure you check your headroom and fill any empty space around you with stuff that's pleasing to look at. Tip number 2 is windows. Now, windows can be your enemy or your friend. I see this happen a lot in videos, and it's very common and it's a very easy mistake to make. Windows should never ever be behind you or the subject that you're shooting. This goes for the sun as well. The sun should always be in front of your subject. Windows should always be in front of you. Windows can backlight you like you're trying to hide your identity in one of those unsolved mystery movies. However, windows and the sun can act as a natural light source. So use windows to your advantage. If you can sit in front of windows and have them hitting your face, that can help provide adequate lighting for your camera. However, nowadays when you're filming with cameras like DSLRs or you're filming in environments that are controlled, there's really no excuse. You can buy pretty cheap lighting with stands and soft boxes for under $200 nowadays. So I would recommend just going out and finding a cheap lighting kit on Amazon and just buy some simple light kit that will work for you and what you're doing. Audio. Audio is probably even more important than having good video. Now, this is kind of a general concept that we talk about a lot in the video industry. It's better to have good audio and bad video than the opposite. If you think about your own experiences watching TV, if you're flipping through the channels and there's a show on that maybe is like crystal clear, but you can't hear it, you're more likely to switch to the channel where the picture's a little bit fuzzier, but the audio is better. At least you can follow what's going on. Don't try to cut corners and not use a microphone. Don't rely on the microphone of the camera. It's just not adequate enough to do the job. Speaking of audio, I want to address the way that we talk when we are on camera, because it is very different from how we talk in person. So a couple different things you want to keep in mind is slow down. Slow down. If you think you're talking too slow, you're probably not. Everyone's going to be learning and listening at their own pace, but everyone can always speed up the sound if they think you're talking too slow. A lot of people listen to podcasts now on double or triple speed. I'm not one of those people, but it's always better to be safe than sorry and speak and articulate clearly what you are saying. This isn't always possible. If you don't script your material, you're probably going to be just flying off the cuff and thinking on the seat of your pants. Still, I would recommend trying to just slow down, take an extra cut or edit if you have to, and just slow down. It's also tempting to look at your camera's monitor and make sure that you're not making any funny faces or make sure you're still in focus. I would recommend staring straight into the camera lens because that's where the audience is looking at you, and then you'll be making eye contact with them throughout the video. The last thing I want to talk about, and I'll maybe spend a little bit more time on this, is how to provide feedback. Now, this is going to greatly vary depending on what kind of content that you're creating. On my channel, I focus a lot on reviews and content coverage and analyzing and critiquing games. So I want to speak specifically to gaming and feedback on games, but this rule can pretty much be extended onto any content or media that you're talking about. Let me just start by saying there's absolutely no reason to trash somebody else's creation. We all have preferences, we all have things we do and do not like, but you got to think at the end of the day, whatever it is that you're consuming for an art, someone made that. And that creation, whether it's something that came out a year ago or 10 years ago, someone actually put time, effort, money, sacrifice into creating that thing that you are now consuming. It's okay if you don't like it. That's totally fine. That's what makes the world go round. But I want to maybe offer a few ways to reword what you're saying. This is not to police what you're saying. It's just trying to offer a different perspective and a way of saying things the same way without coming across like you are being a jerk. Now, I'm a critical person. I'm very critical of the things that I create, and I'm also very critical of my experiences. So I know what it's like to be a critic and to have an opinion and a hot take on everything, but sometimes you have to pump the brakes a little bit and just remember that you're talking about something that a person made. Critiquing something like a tabletop game is very different from something like a video game where maybe 100 or 200 people worked on it. Board games and tabletop games very generally have smaller crews. Sometimes one person has created and developed a board game. So you're actually talking about an individual, not just a group or an entity. So for instance, instead of saying something like,
"This game was bad,"
consider saying something like, "This game wasn't for me, but someone out there will enjoy it." Guess what? Someone out there will enjoy it. Every game has an audience and every game has a player. There are games that I absolutely hate that my friends love, and vice versa. And again, that's what makes the world go round. Instead of saying,
"Don't play this game,"
maybe consider saying something like, "This game was worth a playthrough, but unless there was house rules or updates, I probably wouldn't play it again." That's fair. That's something that everyone can understand and say, you know, as a creator, if I'm watching someone critique my work, I can understand, all right, well, this game wasn't for them, but at least they didn't tear apart my entire life's work. I think reviewers and content creators owe it to their viewers to be honest and open about their experiences consuming a product or play testing or whatever it is that you're doing. But we also owe it to each other to be encouraging and help lift each other up. Hey, at the end of the day, you can do and say whatever you want, right? It's your channel, it's your content. These are just a few friendly tips from one person to another. If you're too scathing and you're too negative, you might find that people maybe don't want to watch your channel. Me personally, I don't enjoy watching reviewers or content creators that nitpick or make sarcastic comments about a person's creation. I mean, come on, a person put their time and effort into that. I'm a creator. I know what it's like to receive the smallest criticism on my projects. It's not easy. Some people are better at taking it than others. My point is, just find a way to reword the things you're saying and it'll work better for everyone involved. So I just want to thank everyone for taking a moment to watch this video. I really hope something in it resonated with you and hopefully will help you rethink how you do your next video. If you have any specific questions for me about videography or content creation, feel free to shoot me an email at cb@wintermoongames.com. My name is Chris, and Winter Moon Games is on pretty much any social media platform of your choice. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, occasionally streaming on Twitch. So please find me on those, follow, like, whatever it is that you want to do. I'm also publishing a board game called Pandemonium Estate. You can find more information by going to Facebook and typing in Pandemonium Estate board game, where you can like the page and find all the updates on the new art and playable story modes and all the above. So check that out. I look forward to seeing you there. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.